What is going on, everybody, and welcome to episode number 63 of the Talking ATL Hawks podcast. First off, I just want to say a happy MLK Day to everybody out there. I hope you're enjoying your day off of work slash day off of school, however MLK Day is treating you the most. If you can't tell, the vibes aren't very high right now. Usually, MLK Day is a day where the Atlanta Hawks play some really good basketball. Heading into today, we were 9-3 all time on NBA games on MLK Day. That dropped to 9-4 after an absolute heartbreaker. Obviously, we'll get into that game later on today, so I'll save it for that time because I want to go on
We,
a whole rant.
we played
But
a, we played a we played a lot more games on MLK. I think we were actually like 20-9 all
No,
time.
no. They said 9-3 all time. We played the Hawks and the Bucks actually, fun fact, played on the very first NBA on MLK Day. And the Hawks won that game. And then it just became, an Atlanta Hawks tradition, later on, when MLK Day, began to, I guess, really be celebrated, past the Dominique Wilkins days, And, since, Atlanta's obviously his birthplace, it's just a prime spot, for some MLK basketball. And usually we play very good. Especially the past couple years, against the Spurs, against the Heat, against the Bucks previously, not the one today. But yeah, it was a frustrating loss today. We'll get into that in a little bit, but as always, I'm with the best crew in the nation, John Joyner, and the Rage Baiter himself, Andrew Jefferson. I'm calling him the Rage Baiter today because he's just for some reason he's just in a rage baiting mood.
It's not too easy, man. It's too easy. I'm not rage baiting this time. I'm actually just spitting out facts. If you look it up on Google, it does confirm that the Hawks are 21-9 all time on MLK games. I don't, that was before this one, so I guess that now makes us
Um,
21-10 all
well,
time.
they said something about 9-3 or 9-2. Maybe they were talking about home games. Maybe there were a couple MLK Day games we played on the road. Maybe they were
Yeah,
talking about at home.
because they showed a graphic in the fourth quarter and it said Hawks 21-9 all time. So that's the only reason I knew that. You probably just missed the graphic. I know you were
Oh no, I
soaking your
saw the graphic. I just totally thought it was 9-3, but I totally saw the graphic.
See, man, too easy to rage bait. So you just wanted to call me the rage baiter,
You
man.
weren't even rage baiting.
I know. I literally just said you missed the graphic, and that's why it was just simple mistake. I was regarding your mistake. I was trying to back you up there, and then you just, yeah,
It's a joke. It
not
was a joke. It was a joke.
uh
That you
huh.
were.
Anyways, getting back into some basketball. Yeah, not a good week of Hawks basketball. We are on a 4-game losing streak.
Yeah.
Currently sitting 10th in the Eastern Conference. For all you simpletons who can't do math, that means we are in the very last play-in tournament spot. Thankfully, Milwaukee is right behind us, and there's a decently sized gap between us and Milwaukee. Even despite the win, we are still 4 games ahead of Milwaukee from the 11th seed. So we have some wiggle room, but with all the high expectations we had going into the season and just how it's turned out now, it's not good to see the Hawks in 10th. It really just kind of showcases that the Hawks, as of right now, we have such a good young core. And that's what makes it more frustrating. We have a good head coach. We have a good young core, but we can't get it together. It's just something about this team that just does not mesh well on defense. I mean, we'll get into it later in the episode, but our perimeter defense has just been off all season long, but it's more apparent in the last few games. And we're starting to get inconsistent from offense, which is not very complimentary when your perimeter defense is not well, because that's what's thriving in the NBA right now. If you can't close out 3-point shots, it's going to be hard to win basketball games, and we don't. We have it all year. And even when things seem to be going good, it always takes one step back for the Hawks to just completely derail all over again. Because you date it back to the 7-game losing streak we were on. Once we finally broke out of that slump, we started winning basketball games consistently. And now we seem to be sliding again, and that we just can't seem to find our footing. And that's why we're always in the play-in tournament every
Well,
single year.
it's not even a 4 point. It's not even a comfortable gap behind Milwaukee. We're actually only 1.5 games ahead of them, not 4. So, and by this time next week, if we continue to play consistent to this horrible stretch that we're on, by this time next week on our next episode, we could be talking about that the Hawks aren't even in a play-in spot. That's how bad of a spot we're in right now. But the thing is that we're only 4.5 games from a 6 seed, which means by this time next week, we could be like an 8 or 7 seed, or maybe 2 weeks from now, we could be out of the play-in and actually in the top 6 seed. That's how close the Eastern Conference is right now. And all it takes is one winning streak, to completely change the season. But we can't find the consistency to do that for all the reasons you explained. But we're getting all this in a minute. Look to Mr. John Joyner rocking his Arkansas gear today. How's this week been treating you, man? How you enjoying your MLK Day?
My day's been good. Just been relaxing, catching up on some schoolwork, exams, still in school, unfortunately. My weekend was good. Had my first tournament of my of 2026.
Absolutely.
Finished 2-3. Not too bad, but not too bad, but not the best either. It's not exactly what we wanted. We wanted to at least finish second place, but I mean, hey, you can control what you can control, and the games just weren't in our favor this weekend. But yeah, like this weekend was good. I was not able to watch the I was unable to watch the Celtics game. So y'all like talk that game game completely.
Lucky you, John.
Funny enough, we actually didn't get to watch it either. We caught like snippets of it, but we weren't able to watch a whole bunch of it ourselves. And
the only reason why I know that it was a bad game for us is because one of my teammates who's a Celtics fan was texting me and said, "Hey, the Hawks suck right now."
Jackson? It wasn't Jackson, was it?
I'm not, and I said, "Yeah, dude, you're right."
He said one of his teammates.
Yeah.
I missed that part. Okay, yeah, I was about to say Jackson hasn't watched a lick of Celtics basketball all year, so he has no room to be talking. Shout out to you, Jackson, if you're tuning in. But yeah, so since we have 4 games to talk about, I guess we'll go ahead and hop into start bench cut, which actually is a start bench cut. It's just, something I want to bring up, it's not even Hawks related, just something I want to bring up, kind of talk about, get y'all's opinions on, because if you did not know, at 2:00 today, they did announce the all-star starters for the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. So I'll go ahead and just name them out here. We'll kind of talk about, what we do like and don't like about the starters list, and maybe some players we can expect that should be reserves or might even get snubbed, because obviously we don't have the full rosters released yet. That'll be at a later time. So for the Eastern Conference, your starters go from Cade Cunningham, Tyrese Maxey, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jalen Brunson, and Jaylen Brown. And then going over to the Western Conference, you got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, Stephen Curry, and Victor Wembanyama. And if you ask me, right off the bat, one player just right off the rip that I just absolutely love was included in the starting 5 for the Eastern Conference was Tyrese Maxey. He has been a certified star in the Eastern Conference since the season started, and he has just been a bright spot and a bright piece that the Philadelphia 76ers has been desperately searching for, especially with the injury inconsistency of Joel Embiid, because of his bad knees now. He just really isn't able to be as dominant as a player, back-to-back MVP type player like he has been in the past, which means they needed a fresh star, a fresh stud to kind of lift the Sixers up and put them back into contention. And they've been a very surprising, team this year. He's averaging, career high 30 points, 4 rebounds, 30 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, a steal, and a block. And he's shooting 47% from the field and 88% from the foul line. Tyrese Maxey, yes, averaging 30 points a game. And he's kind of having like a Dyson Daniel type season with the amount of steals he's having. He's top of the NBA in terms of steals per game. So just having that offensive efficiency plus a defensive consistency, he's just a rising star right off the bat. This is a good sign for Sixers fans. I think we all knew Tyrese Maxey was going to be good, but I don't think we thought he was going to be great. But he's at a great caliber right now. And if the Sixers can, step away from Paul George, get some more young bucks into the Sixers roster and start building around Maxey, take the load off and beat a little bit, they could be back to being a scary team in the Eastern Conference. Nick Nurse, I know we were making fun of him last year, but I'm kind of back on the Nick Nurse train. I think he's got this team rocking the right direction. But, what do y'all think about this starters list? What do y'all like? What do y'all dislike? I guess, John, we'll start with you.
I mean, I don't really think that there's like a single like starter that I don't necessarily like. I mean,
let me look at the starters.
I mean, I guess maybe like Giannis, because he's also on a struggling basketball on a struggling basketball team. But I mean, but like I guess he is like hooping, so like I guess it makes sense. But like I mean, but like for the West, like I think they like nailed it perfectly. Like I don't think
right.
It sucks that LeBron's not starting because like that ended his streak of like starting in the All-Star game of 21 years. But I mean,
yeah.
Also like you gotta like
LeBron. Yeah, there's no room for him.
Yeah, I guess the only argument, I think one thing that I've kind of seen, and I think everybody that's saying this are just non-Spurs fans, is that, Victor Wembanyama didn't play enough games to be an all-star starter. Well, personally, I don't care. The way Victor's been playing pre-injury and even post-injury, because think about it, coming off his injury, he was on a minutes restriction. He sat the bench for San Antonio Spurs, still contributed greatly to get them to almost an NBA Cup championship. But then right after the NBA Cup championship, he went right back in the starting five, and he's played just as phenomenal, if not better, than he was at the start of the year. And I think despite the time he missed with his injury, by the end of the season, he could be a true contender for the MVP. So I don't want to hear this, he didn't play enough games to be an all-star starter. Given his numbers, with even on his minutes restriction, he is well deserving of being a starting player on the Western Conference All-Star team. So I don't want to hear it for all your yappers out there who say otherwise. And again, I think they're mostly just like rivals of Spurs, like Rockets fans, Thunder fans, all those type players. I don't want to hear it.
No, it's something I really like. Well, first of all, just pointing this out there because I don't think Chase mentioned it. But for those who are curious, Luka Doncic and Giannis Antetokounmpo both of those led the votings for their respective conferences. Luka for the West, Giannis for the East. Giannis has already been a controversial aspect of that. So a lot of people are arguing if
I don't
Giannis
think so, though.
Well, let me get through my point. I know a lot of people are arguing the fact that Giannis maybe shouldn't have led the Eastern Conference in All-Star voting, but personally, I disagree. I think it's totally fair to see Giannis Antetokounmpo getting that respected target of popularity by the fans and the voters in the Eastern Conference because, I mean, like Giannis, I know he's kind of been overshadowed a little bit this year because of all his reputation in Milwaukee is kind of up in the air. Fans aren't as receptive of him anymore. Not really of him, but just as the team of the team, and it's making Giannis frustrated. It's making the fans frustrated. But if you take away all that noise and just look at Giannis's stats and how he's been playing this year, he's been his production has been really elite this season. Not quite MVP numbers, but definitely elite enough for me to say, yeah, it's not surprising that he led the East in All-Star voting. And very consistent on a nightly basis when he's actually on the court. And it's now his 10th All-Star start in a row, still proving that he's one of the league's most unstoppable players. Obviously, you get the obvious ones, Steph Curry, Luka. Chase said it perfectly with Tyrese Maxey earning his first All-Star star selection because, like Chase said, he's been such a great breakout guard amongst all the young stars the Sixers have, including VJ Edgecombe. Cade Cunningham continuing to rise. He's just been a great representative of the next generation of NBA stars that we're seeing in the league nowadays. And then what Chase said about Victor Wembanyama. Again, all the controversy, not only because of his injuries, but people are just saying that even when he's on the court, some people do believe that Anthony Edwards has been a better player this year and that he should have gone the starting nod over Victor Wembanyama. But I don't think that's right at all. I think Victor Wembanyama getting the nod over Anthony Edwards, for one, just gives the fans a chance to see what the future face of the league actually is going to look like as an all-star starter. Yes, I said it. Victor Wembanyama is going to be the future face of the NBA. But
I think that's pretty clear. I think that's pretty clear.
It's not a disrespect to Anthony Edwards at all. I just think Victor Wembanyama, ever since he's come off the court, especially before his injuries, but even after his injuries, even like probably if you just look at the last 3 weeks alone, I know he's kind of been on the day-to-day list every now and then, but Victor Wembanyama, when he's on the court, he's just unstoppable. He's been that way. I mean, and the fact that his game is so expansive that you not only have to worry about loading the paint to try to minimize what he's going to do at the rim, you have to worry about him behind the three-point line. And that's why you go look at the highlights of when San Antonio was in Atlanta, and that's exactly the reason why the Hawks got bent over backwards and sideways. Because, you're talking about a team who can't guard the perimeter and is soft in the paint. That is a perfect canvas for Victor Wembanyama to just go crazy on, and that's exactly what he did. But, yeah, I like it. There's not really a selection on there that I disagree with. Very happy about Tyrese Maxey, very happy about Victor Wembanyama. And, I think the All-Stars fans and the voters got it right.
I guess another guy to keep that was kind of a player to keep an eye on was Nikola Jokic. A lot of people was wondering, if he would be taken out of the Western All-Star starter contention because of his recent knee injuries. We know when it originally happened, everybody thought that maybe he would be out for the year because of the original diagnosis. But then after being reevaluated, they determined that he'd come back at the end of January, which is plenty of time for him to compete in the All-Star game, which he will. And obviously, his injury didn't change his voting because he got the second most votes out of anybody in the fan voting, still averaging, 30 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists. So averaging a 30-point triple-double coming into that injury, people, still claim that the Denver Nuggets, when they get Jokic back, might be the biggest threat to the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference. And that's all because, you have the best player in the world on that team. I think that still stands. I think Jokic is still the best player in the world. So I agree with the fans by keeping him in despite his recent knee injury.
Don't forget
Johnny, you got any closing remarks on this list?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I'm thinking it'd be interesting just to see who the bench who fills out the bench for each conference.
Y'all got any predictions on some players that y'all think might, any surprise players y'all think might sneak in? Anybody that y'all think might get snubbed that others might think get in?
So I don't know if y'all saw this, but I think Jalen Williams, J-Dub, got hurt last night or 2 nights ago, so he's gonna be out for he's gonna be out for I think 6 to 8 weeks. So I think he might unfortunately miss the All-Star thing. It's the All-Star break, but I think that the whole Thunder trio between Shea, Chet, and J-Dub, I think they would be that. I think those three are definitely All-Star locks, but Chet,
for sure,
Chet and J-Dub would come off the bench, but I don't think J-Dub's going to be there anymore because of his injury. But yeah.
I think someone that I really hope gets the respected light shine on him is Danny Avdija from the Portland Trailblazers. I've been a very big fan of him this year, mainly because he's kind of helped carry my fantasy team over the last few weeks during my big winning streak that I'm on right now. But yeah, I mean, he's averaging close to 30 points a game. I think he's sitting right at 26 right now. But he's almost averaging a double-double, or actually, well, he's mainly at, let me look at it. I got the stat list. I'm just curious if he's actually averaging a double-double or if he's right at it. Let me look real quick. No, he's not quite averaging a double-double, but getting pretty close. He's averaging 7 rebounds and 7 assists. So he's pretty close to averaging a triple-double, actually. Donovan Mitchell should be an easy lock for the Eastern Conference. I wouldn't necessarily call him a sleeper. I would say Keontae George is another guy that I'd really like to see make an appearance on the All-Star bench for the Western Conference because he is slowly emerged. Well, not slowly emerged. He's kind of been very consistent since the start of the year. But his name's getting out there, especially because the Jazz have been collecting a lot of notable wins over the last few weeks, and Keontae George has been a big part of that. So.
Also, like speaking of like sleepers, there's a Hawk that there's a Hawks player that could be I think it could be a sleeper.
John,
Walker.
We all know Keaton Wallace is going to make it. Jordan, come on. I'm saying no. We all know Keaton Wallace is going to make it, dude.
There we go. Sorry, I got a call. I got a phone call, and everything just went haywire. But I'm back.
I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't think someone who didn't even play against New Orleans can.
He didn't play. He didn't play. He got like 3 minutes.
Seconds. He played 30 seconds.
That's playing time, man. That's playing. That's all he needs. See, you're talking about guys like Steph Curry, Luka Doncic. They need 40 minutes to become relevant. Keaton Wallace just needs 3 minutes, and people are all over that guy. You know what I mean? There's levels to this.
Oh yeah, you're right, Andrew. I did 4 points, 1 rebound, and 2 assists. That's definitely all-star. You're right.
Yeah, he should be first team All NBA, and if not, I'm not. If not, I'm not watching the league anymore. That's just what it comes down to. Chase.
Yeah. Sorry, I was
You wanna go and get into these game recaps and just rip the Band-Aid off?
What was the start bench cut? Like, what was the start bench cut? I forgot. Like, what was it?
I didn't have start bench cut. I was just talking about the All-Star starter rosters.
Oh, okay. My bad.
No, you're good.
I blacked out when you I kind of blacked out there for a sec.
Look, I understand you want to go the All-Star route, Chase, but you missed a perfect opportunity for a start bench cut. Because, look, man, another announcement that the Atlanta Hawks made today on Instagram was coming back next year is going to be the return of these buttes right here. And for y'all simpletons who don't know,
we've done a start bench cut for jerseys.
No, that's not what I was going to say. But the Atlanta Hawks are now 0-5 in the Peachtree jerseys. The jerseys are fire. The court is fire, but the team is not fire when we're wearing them. But for those
they're cold.
But for those simpletons, Hawks fans who don't understand, the Atlanta Hawks, when they are wearing these threads right here, play some of the best basketball you will ever see. Some say that these jerseys are actually what carried the Atlanta Hawks during our 2021 postseason run, and that it actually was a Trae Young. It was these jerseys, and I'm not denying that. And the center court logo that comes with these jerseys is the best thing you'll ever lay your eyes on. So what you could have done there, Chase, is you could have just done start bench cut your 3 favorite moments in the Hawks MLK kits.
Oh well, I mean, yeah, I guess I could have, but I mean, I think
that comes with it.
I think with the NBA announcing their All-Star starters, it was an appropriate time to talk about it before they revealed the rest. But yeah, to your point, Andrew, so much so that when the Atlanta Hawks were going to wear their original jerseys heading into the home playoff games, fans started begging the Hawks on Instagram to switch it to the MLK jerseys, the MLK court. And the Hawks, the Hawks organization, like, we hear y'all. we'll listen to the fans. We'll give into what you are telling us. That's exactly what they did. And you're right, Andrew. They did come with some fire performances. But we're going to go ahead and hop into these game breakdowns. As Andrew mentioned at the start, very bitter very bitter pill to swallow this week, because the Hawks heading into this. So, to end last week's episode, we were all riding such a high because, we swallowed the hard pill. We took the knife of losing Trae Young, sending him to Washington, getting C.J. McCollum and Corey Kispert, and really starting this new era of Atlanta Hawks basketball. And it was off to a good start. We dominated the Pelicans at home before going out west. For this 4-game road trip, and it started with a bang. With a really big performance against the Denver Nuggets. You're like, hey, we're riding a high right now. We're got a favorable schedule coming out because we beat Golden State too. Forgot to mention that. So that's back-to-back wins against the Nuggets and the Warriors to start the road trip. So C.J. McCollum had a really good opening performance for the Hawks. So you're like, hey, we're off to a really good start. We got some momentum going. We're gonna ride off the back of C.J. McCollum and Corey Kispert. We know the Trae Young era is over, but there is a bright spot that this Hawks future is looking at. It's in the right hands of the GM. We know we got Quinn Snyder, a great head coach. There's no reason that heading into the postseason, the Hawks can't be a top 6 team in the Eastern Conference. We can finally avoid this, play-in persona that we have nailed to our backs. But, it's Monday. We're looking back at this week. And unfortunately, we've just taken 5 steps backwards. And it all started with this Tuesday night game in LA against the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, we were 2.5-point favorites heading into this game. And, there's also rumors that Luka wouldn't play and that maybe even LeBron wouldn't play as well. And, that would have been massive. But, of course, Luka decides he's going to play. And LeBron decides he's going to play his first back-to-back all year. Yes, LeBron has not played.
That was literally decided 40 minutes before tip-off that Luka and LeBron were going to play.
And Austin Reeves already wasn't playing. So, that's already a big hit for LA. And, yes, you heard me right. LeBron has not played a back-to-back all season until Tuesday night when he faced the Atlanta Hawks. I think the main reason was because the Lakers were on a 3-game losing streak, and they've only had one 4-game losing streak since acquiring.
The main reason is because he's 41. I don't care that it's LeBron. He's 41, Chase. He's 41. He said it himself. He's not going to play back. He's really not going to play in back-to-backs.
Exactly.
Unless he has to.
Exactly. This was an instant where he had to because the Lakers were skidding backwards. He's like, okay, we're not going to lose 4 in a row. I'm going to have to pull on my crown. I'm going to have to come out here and play some good basketball. And, of course, LeBron does what LeBron always does, 31 points, 10 assists, and a rebound short from another triple-double. Now, looking at the team box score, this is kind of an odd game to decipher because it's not like we got out-rebounded a lot. I mean, we beat them on offensive rebounds. We had more steals than they did. They had way more turnovers than we did. We had more points off of turnovers than they did. So then you look at like what the shooting percentages weren't far off. So you kind of look at the overall landscape and you're like, what in the world could have happened? I mean, 58% for them, 45% from us. Now they did shoot 56% from deep. We shot 28%. We're going to get to that in a minute because that's a big reason why this game was as bad as it was. But there's one moment in particular that has really tilted this game on its head that the Hawks were never able to recover from. And it was the 21-0 run the Lakers went on in the second quarter. Because up until about the 8-minute mark of the second quarter, this was a really competitive basketball game. Both teams are struggling from deep, and it's important to note that like I mentioned before, the Lakers shooting a nasty 56% from deep because heading into this game, the Lakers ranked dead last on 3-point field goal percentage. At the start of the game, it was a little rocky. I mean, Rory Hachimura was off to a great start from deep, but no one else really was until the 8-minute mark of the second quarter where Luka Doncic just lit a fire in between his booty cheeks, and it didn't matter how much contest the Atlanta Hawks put on him. He was pulling off some Luka magic like he did back in his Denver days, and he was making some unbelievable shots. And it kind of put the Hawks on their toes.
Did Luka play for Denver?
I said Mavericks. I said Dallas. I never said Denver. I said Dallas.
You said back in his Denver days.
I said Dallas days. Anyways, that's besides the point. And it put the Hawks on their toes, and it forced them into a little bit of a panic. And the run just continued, and the run got so bad that I mentioned it was 21-0. That at one point in the second quarter, the Lakers led by 32 points, and it wasn't even halftime yet. And before I kick it off to one of you, I'll start with Andrew here. Andrew, I got to ask you. This is going to be a main point and a main emphasis on the podcast today, and it's Jalen Johnson. You know, we talked about it with a buddy of ours from church that's also a Hawks fan, and he made a really good point. Andrew, I want you to kind of, run with this and emphasize on it a little more. But it's almost as if Jalen Johnson, ever since the Atlanta Hawks trade, has kind of been a little bit of a panic, and he's playing kind of scared in terms of he's backed off from what made him such a dominant player before, and it's like he's not carrying the role of, hey, you're our number one option. You are the face of our franchise. It's almost like he's not carrying that role very well anymore. And I will say he did have a much better game today. We'll give him praise for that. We'll get into that in a minute. But Andrew, can you kind of dive into Jalen Johnson's performance against the Lakers, which was easily his worst of the year, might be the worst of his career? And what's going on with him, man? What's the problem here?
I'm going to start off. I'm going to answer that question with some stats that actually has nothing to do with Jalen Johnson. And it's going to lead right into what I think the problem is with Jalen Johnson. Because you look at the score, you hear everything Chase just said, but funny enough, there was a lot that went right with the Hawks' offensive
that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Because Atlanta could have folded very early after falling behind, especially when the Lakers decided to wake up from the three-point line like they haven't done all year, and they shot nearly 62% in the first half while dropping 81 points. But instead, the Hawks, like they had done all year, they kept competing. Nickeil Alexander-Walker led the way with 26 points. He was a big factor. In the second half, he started attacking gaps, creating offense against, elite defenders. And then you had C.J. McCollum following behind him, giving 25 points on the stat sheet, easily his best performance since he's put on a Hawks jersey. And the chemistry between the new backcourt, with Corey Kispert and C.J. McCollum have really started to thrive in this game, because Corey Kispert added a very quiet 19 points. I say very quiet because it was overshadowed by a lot of what the Lakers was doing when he started, popping off. But once again, the backcourt with C.J. McCollum, Corey Kispert, they provided space. They were moving the ball very well. And something the Hawks offense so badly needed during this transition period was just keep the ball moving and get open shots. And that trio alone, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, C.J. McCollum, Corey Kispert, helped Atlanta make a legitimate push, and we trimmed a 32-point deficit down to 11 points in the second half. And then you take a look at the context, and this is where I'm getting into Jalen Johnson. Atlanta was shorthanded. No Kristaps Porzingis, per usual, and Zachary Richardson missed the game, and that's going to follow along with the rest of the games that we're going to talk about today. Still no Zachary. And for the team, still learning the new rotations, the new roles, the ability to generate offense and rally on the road was going to be a hard ask for this Atlanta Hawks team against this Lakers defense when you're losing guys like Kristaps and Zachary and still trying to figure out a backcourt. Jalen Johnson, when Trae Young got injured initially against the Brooklyn Nets, found it within himself to say, I'm going to be the new leader of this team. And what that meant for Jalen Johnson was using his size and his athleticism to be that number one option when it comes to the Hawks attacking the rim, especially in transition. There was a point, and it really sparked in that very first West Coast road trip the Hawks got on, where Jalen Johnson instilled such a deep confidence in him that I'm going to get to the rim every time and score. And that just goes, and that's complemented by everything else about his game, the three-point shot, the elite rebounding, the playmaking, the post moves, whatever you want to call it. But ever since this Trae Young trade has happened, and you've got the new backcourt duo adding into what the Hawks already had, Jalen Johnson, I think it's a confidence issue. I don't think he has the confidence to be the number one option when it comes to attacking the rim anymore because he doesn't. What the biggest problem is with Jalen Johnson, when the opportunity presents himself, whether it's transition or backdoor cut, he never finishes at the rim with contact. He always finds it in himself that I'm going to pass out before I figure out should I take the shot or not. And that is really drag down the rest of his game because it happens to every NBA player. You look at the NBA league as a whole. When you as a player are not leaning on your number one strength, that's going to automatically take away from whatever else you have to offer because it's that when Jalen Johnson is finishing at the rim, his confidence is at an all-time high. But when he's not, Jalen Johnson's not Jalen Johnson anymore. So I think, and we finally saw it in this Milwaukee Bucks game, and that we're going to get into later. Jalen Johnson in this Milwaukee Bucks game, for the first time in 4 games, finally found his rhythm again and finally decided to take the finish to the rim. So to answer your question, Chase, I think it's just all about confidence, and I think he lost it for a little bit.
Right.
What you got first, John?
I want to just piggyback off what Andrew said. I totally agree. It's a confidence issue, and because he all of a sudden got thrust into that. Okay, you are the franchise guy. Yes, Trae Young wasn't playing. I'm gonna say yes, like Jalen Johnson. I'm gonna say yes, Jalen Johnson. I'm not going to carry the team. Not necessarily carry the team, like carry that load that Trae Young only carries for us. But he was never really dubbed the franchise guy. Now he is. Now he's got all this pressure on himself, and I'm now he's just got to work through that, and that's gonna take some time to go over. I'm also too. We don't know. Andrew will cover this too, but I'm also he's got to wait. It takes time to learn new teammates as well.
Yep.
The additions of Corey Kispert, CJ McCollum too. So I think it's a mixture of confidence and building to a new team chemistry.
Absolutely. To go back, like you said, it's it's weird because, you're right, he was kind of just all of a sudden thrown into this leadership role like he didn't think he would be at the start of the year. But, it's kind of odd, too, because you would think he'd be better prepared for the situation because heading into the season, we all knew that, if we were not competitors like we thought we would be by this time of the year, then it was a high possibility that Trae was going to get traded. And, based on our position in the play-in tournament, based on Trae Young, getting less and less time because he was missing, because he was sitting on the bench with injuries, even though we all kind of knew that was building up to a trade, you kind of feel like in that moment that Jalen Johnson knew what kind of role he was about to step into, and he was playing it very well while Trae Young was injured, and he was our number one option. That's why he gained so much traction under his name, and I think that's why our front office became so much more comfortable with the idea of trading Trae Young. It's okay, look at this guy, Jalen Johnson. Look how he's presenting himself. He's quickly made himself a name in the NBA and in our franchise that we know he can be our new number one guy, the face of the Atlanta Hawks. But then now it's when reality set in, the trade happened and he was actually solidified as our number one guy. It's almost like the pressures became too much and he's overthinking it. He's overanalyzing everything. Like Andrew said, instead of driving in and attacking the rim and being such a good contact finisher that made him Jalen Johnson, now he feels like he has to play safe and not as aggressive, which has been leading to him driving in and kicking it out when it's not necessary. So I think, and like you said, John, also talking about how it takes a while to get acquainted to new teammates. I think that was a big positive. Andrew talked about a little bit too. And this game against the Lakers is Corey Kispert and CJ McCollum both had really good games. I think it was the Lakers game that really showed everybody that CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert, they're kind of already meshing quickly into what their role is going to be in Atlanta. But now that's kind of transitioning a little bit because Quinn Snyder's now trying to put them in the right place. He's been bouncing in between, whether CJ McCollum needs to be in the starting lineup or on the bench. And the same with Corey Kesper, because in the game against the Bucks, he did give Corey Kesper a spot in the starting five, but still gave him bench player minutes. So that's still something Quinn Snyder's trying to figure out. And that's,
I think we should have started Vit today. We should have started Vit because I don't know why we've been starting Vit over like Vit over and now all of a sudden we go to Kisper. I don't understand it.
Vit struggled today. Vit struggled bad today.
Well, yeah, but we didn't know that heading into the game. And I kind of agree with John. If not Vid, then I would have been fine with keeping CJ McCollum in the lineup. I wasn't a big fan of putting Corey Kesper in there, but I don't hate him for trying. But I think it definitely didn't work, especially since, he got bench player minutes anyway. And CJ McCollum still kind of got starter minutes playing down the stretch. Like he has been since joining Atlanta. So I feel like the move was kind of unnecessary, and I won't expect Quinn Snyder to probably do it again.
I honestly think it was just a matchup thing. I think that's literally all it was. I think because of how much size the Bucks have with Giannis Antetokounmpo and Miles Turner, Quinn Snyder, literally all he was trying to do there was just keep Giannis and Miles Turner from pressing to start the game, and that's the only reason why Kisper was there. Because V's a great defender.
That could be the case.
Because V's a great defender, but when he's outsized, there's nothing he can do. And Corey Kesper's got a lot of size on him, especially, to be a forward. So I think that's really all it was. That Quinn Snyder was like, let's not let Giannis and Miles Turner catch heat early. So I want Kesper on the floor to start the game, and then we'll sub him out and rotate him in after that. I think that's really all it was.
We'll save that for the Milwaukee games. I know we're kind of already at the 40-minute mark, so we'll kind of pick up the pace a little bit. John, I'm going to kick it off to you. If you want to go ahead and start diving into this Thursday night game in Portland, which was another exemplified disaster for the Atlanta Hawks.
So on Thursday night we went over to Portland. CJ McCollum returned to Portland, where he was drafted, I believe sixth overall. I think. I really can't remember when the draft he was drafted, but I'm pretty sure like he was a lottery pick. But anyways, yeah. So oh no. Okay. But anyways, yeah. So so the Hawks. Jalen Johnson had a bit of a struggle bus game, for only finishing with 12 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 6 turnovers. That like a power forward should not be having 6 turnovers. I don't care if you're the if you're the star player, you shouldn't be having like 6 turnovers. You shouldn't be having 6 turnovers as a power forward. That's just
for sure.
That's ridiculous. Akon was the leading scorer with 26 points, 9 rebounds. Nah had 11 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. Vic Krejci struggled only shooting 2 for 4 from 3, finishing with 8 points. Dyson had 10 points. But McCollum off the bench. His return to Portland had 20 points, so impressive game for McCollum. Sure. But I think the difference maker after this was Shaedon Sharpe for Portland, who had 24 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists. And then Caleb Love, which I don't know how the hell he went undrafted.
Me and Andrew had that conversation during the game. That's still mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, I know. Like he was, I know. Like going back into like last year's draft, he was probably one of my favorite like sleeper point guards in the draft. So I don't know how he went undrafted.
But Portland, definitely got a steal. And just like the Lakers game, the Hawks were put in a perfect position to get another win here. The hottest player for the Portland Trailblazers, the Nea Vita, was absent today. And he's a guy that's been averaging 26 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists. Excuse me. So that's a big man threat, one of the best big men in the Western Conference. That was taken out of the lineup, which gave the Hawks a huge size advantage. Which shout out to Nneka Okongwu for having a big big game, like Jordan said, 26 points, which he desperately needed. And he finally got his three-point shot back because that's been an odd trend with Okongwu this year. His three-point shot has really been up and down in terms of consistency. He was on one of his cold stretches, and he finally broke out of it with this big game in Portland. So shout out for that. But in terms of that size advantage, like I mentioned, I think the Atlanta Hawks definitely did a good job at, getting points in the paint because this was another instance where a three-point shot was very iffy. And it was a very tightly contested game, until and actually, I would say towards the end of the third quarter, the Atlanta Hawks, were trending towards a very comfortable position heading into the fourth. And with that momentum, they could have won the game. But the Trailblazers called a timeout after the Hawks went up by 8. And then they ended the third quarter on a massive run and ended up taking an 87 lead into the fourth quarter, and then they just pulled away completely. The Atlanta Hawks completely lost control. And Portland's just been an odd place for Atlanta Hawks to play because after losing that one Thursday night, that was now their ninth in a row losing a game in Portland. They haven't won a game in Portland since February 13th of 2017, back in the neon green triangular pattern days where Paul Millsap hit a buzzer beater on TNT to send the game to overtime. The Atlanta Hawks won in overtime. I would give anything to be back in those days, the Paul Millsap days. But before I kick it off to you, Andrew, to compliment on Joyner, and to piggyback off the point I mentioned the game before,
We'll go straight into the Boston game after you get on talking.
Okay, I'll kick it off to you, and you can lead the Boston game. CJ McCollum in his return to Portland once again, he continues to find his place. I think it's a perfect spot for him coming off the bench. A nice 20 points. He's a big mid-range finesser, and that's been exemplified his whole career. And he's, like I mentioned when we first picked him up, the Atlanta Hawks were missing a mid-range presence off the bench, and CJ McCollum played that role perfectly off the bench, which is why I think the Atlanta Hawks need to keep him there. But again, that's something Quinn Snyder's continuing to battle. But moving on to Saturday night, coming back home in the Peachtree jerseys where we haven't played great in them all year, but we're hoping we can turn the tide, get out of this cold stretch with the Boston Celtics coming to town, who the Atlanta Hawks played very well last year, actually having back-to-back big home wins against them last year. But Andrew, unfortunately, that was not the case. And can you please tell us what resulted in such a fiasco disaster in Atlanta?
Yeah, it was a rough night. It was a very rough night against Boston. There was still a few things in there that the Hawks can, point to as a positives as they continue to try to stabilize after such a long road trip and all the Trae Young trade. It was just a very exhausting week for the Atlanta Hawks, not only as a team, but as a front office and as a management. And Yeke Okongwu, he had his hometown reunion against the Lakers to start the, road trip, or not start the road trip, but to start, the episode. That's something we didn't mention. And not only was that one of Jalen Johnson's worst games, that was one of Onyeka Okongwu's worst games, which is very disappointing because, you always want to put on a show in front of your hometown. His whole family was there. He had such a big crowd come to that game to see him play. But that Portland game, like you guys talked about, he played really well. And this was another game where he made such a steady presence. He had 21 points, and he just really continued to provide just, a reliable interior scoring for the Atlanta Hawks on a night when almost everything else was just stalled for Atlanta. Atlanta just shot 37% from the floor. That's not from three. That's not from the free throw line. That is from the floor. Horrific. Okongwu had an ability to at least generate points without plays that weren't perfectly drawn up, because there was a lot of those plays that weren't perfectly drawn up. And Boston, just to get this out here, they didn't just beat Atlanta. Hawks were just completely overwhelmed the entire game. The Celtics dropped 52 points in the second quarter. The Hawks didn't even put up 52 points in the first half of this game today. And the Celtics shot 19 for 25 and made 11 three-pointers in that first half, which is just simply unsustainable against, any team, especially defensively. And sometimes, it's not about what you did wrong. It's more about what the other team did right. It's something that me and Chase talked about just from a mental standpoint. This game came after such an into a brutal stretch. You know, Atlanta was coming off a West Coast trip, still adjusting to the new rotations after Trae Young, and then the Celtics just walked into this game firing on all cylinders. You know, even in that environment, the Hawks continued to compete. We didn't allow frustration to completely derail the night, but the big picture is that this was just a reality check. There's no beating around that bush. You know, Kongwu, yes, he continued to, give offensive growth in some of those positive stretches inside the paint. But the roles and expectations in the post-Trae Young era, it's not coming to fruition. And it's not like you could ask for it at this early phase in the era. But, I mean, it just came down to the shots didn't fall. The opponents caught fire. Jaylen Brown almost had 30 points in the first half. And now you have to, as a management, you have to shift the focus from recovery to rhythm and just reestablish some kind of defensive identity. Because, yes, we talked about it a lot, but it's a talking point that has to be brought up. The Atlanta Hawks have no offensive identity because, yes, the Celtics were firing from all cylinders, but if you take a look at the game, I mean, like I said, they made 19 shots from the field in that first half, scoring, 80-plus points. But a lot of those shots were open. There was not a lot of closeouts. There was no fighting through screens. There was no switching on defense. There's no covering the back doors. There's no help on transition. There's no defensive identity, and that's what it comes down to. I can get frustrated when a shot is not falling. That's fine. But what you can't recover from is lazy defense, and that's what this Boston Atlanta Hawks game. No urgency on the defensive end of the court whatsoever. I don't care. We could have been shooting 60% from the field. But you're not going to win a game if you're playing that kind of lousy defense. And that's just what it was. Plain and simple.
John, what's your thoughts on this?
I mean, my thoughts are just very simple. I mean, this is just a terrible game. We just gotta play better. There's no reason that we should. There's no reason we should be beating up on a team that doesn't have Jason Tatum.
Exactly. Well, listen, that's just a well-coached team, man. And Jaylen Brown, shout out to Jaylen Brown, dude. Him and Ethan Pritchard have been carrying that load. And I don't even want to say carry because they have a good supporting cast around them. And, it was the only thing eye candy about that night was the jersey matchup, the Hawks and the Peachtree and the Celtics and their white and gold. That was pretty nice, but everything else about that game was just ugly.
Hey, this is completely off topic, but the Packers did just lose Jeff.
I know. That's why I was making the face earlier.
Wait, what happened?
Jeff Hafley, the DC, just went to Miami for their head coach.
No way. That's Miami's head coach?
Yep.
Oh, my gosh. What a pickup.
I love the hire from Miami. That's a great hire for the Dolphins.
I hate it. That's a terrible hire. Jeff Hafley sucks.
You don't like him? Are you for real?
Sarcastic.
I'm about to say, yo, John, are you for real?
I got you.
He's a terrible coach. He's a terrible coach. He's not a good head coaching option. He should just stay as a defensive coordinator. That's my opinion.
I really thought the Dolphins were going to get Sean McDermott after he got fired by the Bills, but that's great pickup. That's a great pickup. I know you're not happy about John, but good for him. He deserves a coaching opportunity, so good for him.
Yeah, he does.
He does. Yeah, he earned it very well. But I guess I'll just say, going back to our buddy from church, we were also talking about this game, and we love Quinn Snyder. I still love Quinn Snyder. I still think he's a top coach in the NBA. But one thing he just hasn't nailed down was how to guard the perimeter. And in today's NBA, obviously, if you can't guard the perimeter, you're going to drown. And we look at the Celtics, with all the injuries they've dealt with this year, all the players they shipped off throughout the offseason. Everybody was confused on what they were building in Boston. It's almost like they were just throwing their whole future away. And now they're 11 games over 500. They're one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, and that's all because of Joe Mazzulla. And that's just the difference between a good coach team and a greatly coached team. And that just shows why he's one of the best coaches in the NBA. He can take whatever he's given and make them competitors just by simple formality, simple pacing and positioning, and knowing how to guard the perimeter, which is the biggest threat in the NBA, because now you got big men shooting from deep. And that's something the Atlanta Hawks just haven't figured out, and that's a big problem, especially on transition. Like you mentioned, Andrew, with lazy transition defense, that's where teams, if you're lazy on transition, that's where teams are going to attack you from deep the most, because they're never going to have an open look and no closeout. And that's something the Atlanta Hawks has done all year. It was what was a big killer against his in this game against Boston, and we're about again this Milwaukee game. There was the same thing here. So much so, Austin Rivers, who was a color commentator on the NBC broadcast for this game against Milwaukee, he was just ranting all day long about how poor and how bad the perimeter defense for the Atlanta Hawks are and how lazy they are in transition. And he's like, the Atlanta Hawks were down by 20 plus at one point. Same thing against Boston. Same thing against the Lakers. And it almost got that bad against Portland. And he mentioned, he's like, you can't be surprised when you give up these big runs, when you just have lazy defense and no closeout on these threes. That's the main emphasis of attack for every single NBA team. If you're just going to make it easy for them, then yeah, you're going to get off the bad starts and you're going to find yourself climbing a mountain every dang game. And that's exactly what has happened all freaking week and really all season. And I really am getting fed up with it. I am a very frustrated Atlanta Hawks fan right now.
To add salt to their wound about the Boston Celtics, not only are they playing their best stretch of basketball, Jason Tatum is now expected to return after the All-Star break, which is ridiculous because nobody thought he was going to return this year. But Jason Tatum is now on pace to come back to the Celtics post All-Star break. The Eastern Conference is cooked.
He is crazy. He's insane. I really don't like. I get his mentality. He got it from Kobe, but like he's not Kobe Bryant. He's not.
Listen, if he's healthy, he's healthy. I don't blame the guy. Come back and play basketball. That's what you're paid to do. That's what you're born to do. It's just all about. And he's been taking the right precautions. I mean, he's been taking it very easy. He's been doing the physical therapy that he's been told to do, and that's what. Listen, if you listen to your team doctors, you get rewarded, and he's done that very well. He's kept a good regimen. So I shout out to you, Jason Tatum. I hope you come back.
Jason Tatum's the type of guy that likes to jump the gun, because you remember in the offseason, he was telling everybody that there's a chance he's going to play on opening day. And everybody's like, okay, Jalen, you're crazy. If you want to have a solidified and healthy rest of your NBA career, you need to take it easy. You need to listen to your physical trainers. And it took a lot of convincing for him to do that. And I think one thing he's got to be careful about is if he does decide to come back after All-Star break, he's going to have to take it easy and be okay with a big minutes restriction. And he also has to be okay with meshing well with the team. This ain't the same Boston team he's coming back to. Yeah, still Jaylen Brown, Sam Hauser, Gary Pritchard, sure. But no Al Horford. You have Anthony Simmons coming off the bench. He's still trying to become a bigger role for Boston. You had to learn their system and find where you're best fit while still being the star like you will be. And if all goes well, then he could go back to being Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics, and they will be one team to fear out of the Eastern Conference come postseason time. But let's go ahead and get into this frustrating MLK matchup against the Milwaukee Bucks. Heading into this game, we all knew that this was a desperation game for both the Bucks and the Hawks, as we are the Hawks holding on to the 10th seed by a thread, and the Bucks sitting right behind the Atlanta Hawks at the 10th seed, both coming off three-game losing streaks. And they know that the clock is ticking, and they need to spark momentum. They need it now. And Austin Rivers mentioned, there's nothing better than a desperation NBA game, because that's when both teams are going to be itching and scratching at their best. And that just wasn't the case, especially for the Atlanta Hawks. And this was another game where the Atlanta Hawks were just perfectly positioned for a win. It's MLK Day. We all historically play well on that day. Sure, no Zachary Ricochet. But and we're trying Walker Kessler, like we mentioned, in the starting five. Angel, I think you're right. I think because of the size matchups was probably the biggest reason why he did that. And defensively, it was I think one of the better games the Atlanta Hawks played recently. Sure, our closeout still wasn't great.
You doing Corey Kispert?
That's what I meant. I'm sorry, Corey Kispert. Excuse me. I apologize.
Corey Kispert is in white boy Utah.
I don't know why Walter Kessler just randomly came to my mind. But yeah, Corey Kessler, excuse me. But as I was saying, sure we didn't close out from deep like we usually do. Sure, our transition defense was still lazy, but that's typical. That's something that's just been oddly the Atlanta Hawks' identity all year. But the Bucks weren't shooting great from deep at the start of the game, and in terms of inside scoring, me and Andrew meant today, Giannis wasn't really as big as a factor as we thought he was going to be. It was really, Bobby Portis that played a big game. Kyle Kuzma was a big inside scorer. Miles Turner, he was more of a – Miles Turner was more shooting out deep. But, it was really, Giannis, we limited him, I think, as much as we, could have, as we could, and it was fine. Everything was working defensively. But what wasn't working and what's been a problem all week is the Atlanta Hawks they've lost their identity in terms of offense. Jalen Johnson was going back to his position of being scared to attack inside. I don't know if it's because of the size advantage Milwaukee had on us, but even on the opportunities where he had a window inside, he still wanted to kick it out for some reason. Nickeil Alexander-Walker was playing that weird role. He didn't want to go inside, and he wanted to kick it out as well. And it's just that, even with a team with size advantage, you have to be taking the windows that you have. And even if you do drive in, maybe the least you can do is draw a foul, but we weren't even attempting that. And I think what was very clear from the get-go was shooting from deep was our planned point of attack. And we did, for granted, for our benefit, have a lot of really open looks beyond the arc. But we did not make a single three-point shot until our 22nd attempt. There was about 3 minutes left in the first half, and Atlanta Hawks were shooting 0 for 21 from deep. Everybody was stunned. You could hear a pin drop in State Farm Arena. So much so that CJ McCollum finally hit a top of the key three late in the second quarter, and the Atlanta Hawks bench just exploded, and State Farm Arena just erupted in sarcastic cheering because thank the Lord.
That was the loudest crowd pop Atlanta's had since the Braves won the World Series.
And thank the Lord, we finally made the three. It was just that, it was a hard pill to swallow. But, the Atlanta Hawks were down by double digits heading to halftime. We're like, you know what? Given our offensive struggles, our defense it's putting us in a position where we can still win this game. And they continued to do so because the Atlanta Hawks had a massive third quarter, winning it by 8. And then eventually late in the fourth quarter, we finally took the lead. Thanks to our three-point shot, it finally come to life. Nickeil Alexander-Walker hit 4 in a row. Jalen Johnson finally showed signs of what made him Jalen Johnson. He was attacking inside. He got his three-point rhythm going. It would have helped if our usual three-point studs off the bench, Vit Krivich and Luke Kennard, would have done their thing. Luke Kennard didn't even attempt a three today, which was really odd. Vit attempted multiple, and he airballed almost 2 of them. That stung a little bit because they were all practically wide open. But thanks to Nickeil Alexander-Walker's big fourth quarter, Jalen Johnson coming to life. Okongwu had a lot of really good offensive rebounds. Dyson Daniels flirted with the MLK triple-double. The Atlanta Hawks had their chance to win. But then when our offense finally got hot, that's when, towards the end of the game, we were trading three-point dagger after three-point dagger. And eventually the Bucks drowned Atlanta Hawks. And this was just another instance that the Atlanta Hawks in the second half played great. 34 points in the third quarter, 38 in the fourth quarter, but they 19 points apiece in the first and second quarter, 0 for 21 to start from deep. You've got to go back to your offense identity. You've got to find it because you're losing the games you should. And at this point in the season, that really, really hurts. This truly was an MLK heartbreaker. And in his birthplace, I'm sure he's looking down from heaven saying, I can't believe I was birthed here. Why can't I have been birthed anywhere else? And I don't blame him.
Quick question for you guys. So that final shot, do you think like anyone else should have taken that shot, or do you think CJ was the right person?
It was a
Because
panic.
people on Twitter were saying like Nas should have taken that or something.
I'm not too sure if it was designed for CJ to take the final shot there. I think what happened was, or even if it was, I think he was looking for a better look, but he lost possession of the
Yeah,
ball
he did.
and he
Right.
picked it back up and still had 6 seconds left. But for some reason, I guess he panicked and he tried to draw a foul or something, and it just didn't work. And I don't know why he panicked. He had 6 seconds left. Just kick the ball somewhere else and find a better shot. But Angie, what do you think, man?
You said it all. I'm good.
You don't have anything to add?
Nah, I'm good.
Well, I mean, I think that's a quiet. I think that's a quiet. Your silence says a lot, Andrew, because it's just. I mean, I guess to end the episode, if y'all just want to, maybe throw y'all's input in here. What does the Atlanta Hawks need to do better? Because looking, at the upcoming games this week, you got. We're traveling to Memphis on Wednesday night. They got John Morant back, but they've been playing really ice cold. Then we come back home to play the Phoenix Suns on Friday, and that's actually the only 2 games we had to cover this week. We played the Suns very well as of late, but what these next 2 games? That's gonna be weird. We only have 2 games to cover next week. But I guess whenever we do cover these next 2 games, what do you want to be saying? This is what the Hawks did better. Andrew, we'll start with you.
The Hawks, we have the second most home games remaining in the NBA, and I think we just really have to run away with that. And it's just what we've been saying all episode, just got to be better closing out threes. It's one thing if shots aren't falling, but if you're not doing the things right on the defensive end, then you're never going to win a basketball game. You just got to close out threes. We have the talent to do it, and yeah, that's it.
John, what about you, man?
I think Andrew said it perfectly. We just got to close out games. We can't be having these. We can't be down. We can't be down like a certain amount and coming back at the fourth quarter not to finish. We gotta finish, and yeah, that's all I gotta say. We just gotta finish these comebacks. We can't fall short.
Absolutely. This was a problem. I think the Hawks had the start of the year was just getting out to really bad starts. And then we kind of fixed that issue. Now we're right back to it. And I don't know. I'm stuttering, finding words to say because I don't really know what to say, to be honest with you. But any closing remarks before we wrap this up?
I mean, there is an important game on tonight.
There is. I guess we'll go ahead and drop our predictions. Indiana and Miami for the national championship. All I'm going to say is Indiana is going to show some straight BTA tonight. There's no way we'll let Sid the Sloth win a national championship.
Yeah, as a diehard Florida State fan, the worst possible scenario for life in general is just seeing Miami win a national championship. For those out there, this is a little controversial. Well, it's not really controversial. I have my reasons. I hate Miami. Miami is my least favorite team. Miami is my second least favorite team. No, actually, no, I'm going to take that back. Miami is my least favorite team in all sports. That goes professional. That goes for anything. Yes, I hate them more than Florida. It goes Miami 1, Mets 2, Saints 3. Those are my top 3 least hated teams in sports. So if Miami wins the national championship tonight, I'm going to be depressed for the rest of the year, and I just can't have that. So, but I trust Mendoza. I trust Kirk Cinetti. Indiana has steamrolled just about everybody they've come in contact to in the playoffs. And you can say all you want about Miami's defense. They were saying the same thing about Alabama's defense, and they were saying the same thing about Oregon's. Well, no, nobody was saying that about Oregon's defense. But they were saying the same thing about Miami's defense, and you saw how they handled business in the Rose Bowl. So, yeah, give me Indiana by 2 scores.
Okay, now I'll get a quick question. Are these predictions for who you don't think is going to win, or you don't want to win?
No, I think Indiana's going to win. I think they're.
Okay, so you are being biased at all.
No, I genuinely think Indiana's going to win.
Okay,
yeah,
just gotta make sure.
Indiana's leaps and bounds the best team in college football. There's no question about that.
I will say this, and y'all are gonna hate me for this, but I do think Indiana is going to win. I do think that, just because Because like what Kurt Cignetti's done with that team, like in the wait, just in like what 2 years, it's pretty incredible. Like last year, they had a college football playoff game against Notre Dame. Unfortunately, they lost that one. But just like 1 year turnaround, they go 13. They go 13 now in the regular season. Beat I'm only holding Ohio State to 10 points in the Big Ten championship. And yeah, like with plus, plus like with like Mendoza being with Mendoza being from Miami, like not getting a single offer from not getting a walk on spot from Miami. Like I just think that he has like some fuel to play against Miami. But with that being said, though, this is technically a home game for Miami. That stadium is probably going to be 60% Miami fans. Plus that defense.
I would think that too, but after seeing how Indiana took over the Bins in the semifinal game, I'm feeling a little confident it's going to be 50-50. Despite Miami technically being, playing in their home stadium, I think it's going to be a 50-50 split. I don't think Indiana fans will let that happen.
I'll give it like 55 Miami, 45 Indiana.
Okay, well, yeah, so I do think Indiana will win, but I'm cheering for Miami just to be different.
And look, usually I'm an ACC guy all the way, and usually I'd be pulling for the ACC, but there's just one ACC team I can't stomach to pull for, and that is Miami. Upside down U all the way, U down, baby. I wish it would have got blown out by A&M from the get-go. Sadly, they made it all the way to the championship game, but hey, if Indiana can surprise the nation and do something they never thought they'd do and win a natty, I'm all for it, man. Kurt Cignetti's a winner. Look him up.
It's good for college football. Indiana's got it, man. They're the next dynasty. They're the next dynasty of college football.
Did y'all hear Kurt Cignetti's message heading into the game? He said that the reporters asked him, what did you tell your team, heading into tonight? And he said he told them that you can't go into war with warm milk and cookies. And I think that's the most Kurt Cignetти quote I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm inspired now, to be honest. I'm actually really inspired. And I don't even know what that means.
All right. Well, I guess we can close it off.
All right, yeah, fellas. With that being said, we only got 2 games to cover next week, but hopefully when we do, we'll be reviewing some much better Atlanta Hawks basketball. With that being said, with myself, Andrew, and John, we will see you next time. Happy MLK Day, everybody.
Good call.